Hey guys, what is happening? AnimetalViking here, and welcome to my YouTube channel, your home of all things anime and music related. If you enjoy the content that you see here, such as the video that you are watching right now, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified of all the latest uploads to this channel. Finally, you can follow me on my various social media platforms, which you will find linked in the description of this video, and you can also help the channel out by sharing this video around and leaving a comment in the comment section below. With that out of the way, on with the video. Shamanic Princess is by far one of the greatest fantasy anime to ever exist, and is truly one of the most overlooked and underrated gems of the 1990s. Not only is it visually stunning and holds up surprisingly well to this day, but it is also extremely well written despite only being 6 episodes long. Also, if you have seen the last video that I had made on this show, you will know that I consider it to be the perfect example of why the method of show don't tell, especially in visual storytelling mediums, is key to creating a sense of wonder and atmosphere to your work that leaves a distinct impression on the mind of the viewer. Ever since I first discovered this anime through a certain AMV, which I will actually be talking a bit more in depth about later in the video, I have always wanted to make an episode of Let's Construct a Concept Album themed around this breathtaking work of art. I always knew that I wanted to come up with ideas for a concept album themed around this show since I first saw it, and I always knew that I wanted the music to reflect the same atmospheric effect of the show as visuals and of course from the time period it came out, but no band or artist aside from maybe the one used in the AMV that I will be... okay. And my nose hits itch at the same time too, I apologize. Noses are allowed to itch. Fuck me. Might have to shave this whole beard off soon. No band or artist, aside from the one that was used in the AMV that I will be getting into, quite matched the unique tone and feeling of the story. It was only in 2020, during the height of the lockdowns in South Africa, that I finally discovered music that not only fit my vision for a project of this nature, but complemented the style of music used in the AMV, which led me to discovering this series. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of Let's Construct a Concept Album. I'm your host AnimetalViking, and today I will be sharing my ideas for my dream concept album themed around the classic 90s OVA series Shamanic Princess that was directed and co-created by the director of another 90s classic Outlaw Star, Hongo Mitsuru. Please remember to check out the description box below for the link to the secret playlist containing all the songs and artists mentioned in this video, and be sure to show them the same love and support that you show me when you're watching this video. Now, without further delay, let's get right into it. The 90s era of anime was arguably the best period of time for fantasy animation. You had a wide variety of classic shows coming out at the time, ranging from all genres and styles of fantasy, whether it was your Tolkien D&D inspired fantasies like Record of Lodoss War, your parody comedy shows like Slayers, your modern isekai progenitors like The Vision of Escaflowne, magical girl shows like Sailor Moon or Revolutionary Girl Utena, and of course the dark fantasy mantipiece that is... not mantipiece, what the fuck? What the fuck is mantipiece? That was low IQ English right there.
I can't even fucking English anymore.
And of course, the dark fantasy masterpiece that is Berserk. Anime fans were truly spoiled for choice when it came to this genre back then. However, out of all the shows I mentioned, Shamanic Princess was mostly overlooked during this time and even today. Not many people know about it except for those who have created a cult following around it, especially in recent years. Like with a lot of fantasy anime during that time, most of the shows I mentioned earlier definitely carry a lot of the aesthetic and feel of the 90s anime and fantasy period. But Shamanic Princess is very special in the case that visually it manages to strike this perfect balance between what is traditionally only seen in anime and what was very much commonplace in other forms of entertainment during that time period, especially in terms of artwork, books, comics, RPGs, and even Western cartoons or films. It also did a lot of things musically in its score that were unique only to the 90s and what a few popular artists during that time period kept in their sound even up until their latest releases. It just oozes with a rich atmosphere that is not only something limited to the world of the story, but to the time period in which this show aired. What I am trying to get at is this. Shamanic Princess is a fantasy story that, despite being self-contained, is filled with a lot of mystery, wonder and ethereal atmosphere. And this was something that could often be found in what was one of the most popular mainstream genres of music at the time, New Age. I discovered Shamanic Princess through an AMV that, while made all the way back in October of 2002, somehow managed to make its way onto YouTube, and despite video editing software not being what it was today all the way back then, was actually made extremely well, and along with the music used, perfectly encapsulates everything I described just now about the 1990s as I experienced it growing up and what the show is all about. This AMV was set to the song Book of Days by Irish New Age and Celtic pop sensation Enya. Enya is an artist that I grew up listening to during my childhood thanks to my mother. And although Enya got her start in the 80s, the 90s were arguably the decade in which she was the talk of the music scene internationally, and her career was used... I really cannot English today, and these fucking dogs...
The dog's gone rabid.
Shut the fuck up!
I don't know if you can hear them in the microphone, Daniel, but seriously, fuck these damn dogs. Anyway. And although Enya got her start in the 80s, the 90s were arguably the decade in which she was the talk of the music scene internationally, and her music was used in everything from movies to documentaries. When I saw this AMV set to 90s styled animation that had watercolor backgrounds, it reminded me a lot of the storybooks my mom used to read to me on sunny afternoons after kindergarten, and was immediately reminded of just how incredible synth-based music of the 90s was, and how much more mystical it felt in comparison to the sci-fi and cyberpunk era of the 80s, or the generic EBM and Hans Zimmer samples of the modern era. So it should go without saying that the first artist I would get to write, compose and put her own distinct fingerprint on this album would be none other than Enya herself. With every album that she puts out, she maintains a level of consistency not only vocally, but whatever style of synths she has created, they are unmistakably hers, and she carries that otherworldly, ethereal and mystical fantasy sound from the 90s to this day, even when she incorporates some more modern elements to adapt with the times. Not only that, but even classic tracks like May It Be, which was featured on the first Lord of the Rings movie, prove that her music is still associated with fantasy action, regardless of whether it's something grand and epic like Tolkien, or something smaller and more contained like the world of Shamanic Princess. Enya may be more well known to the public for her catchy and bouncy songs, but if you talk to any metal musician, since many have been influenced by her music, especially in the black metal scene, you will find out that her true strengths lie in the more ritualistic and spiritual moments of her music, and that is what I want to highlight here with these two clips. The first clip is from the Book of Days AMV that I just spoke about, and the other is from an AMV that my editor put together just for the sake of this video. Go check them out right now on the screen. Now, the second artist I would pick to work with and collaborate with Enya on this project is a one-man black metal project from Italy simply known as Medenera. I discovered this man's music during the lockdowns of 2020, and I must say that out of all the fantasy-inspired atmospheric black metal projects that I have heard, his style not only would match well with Enya's brand of songwriting and synth work, but he is most likely, at least in my humble opinion, is the only modern day artist in existence who understands the purpose of synth samples and knows how to create a fantasy atmosphere that carries the torch from artists like Enya and Japanese anime composers like Susumu Hirasawa. His style is also flexible in the sense that, like with Enya, whether it's used for grandiose epic fantasies like Tolkien or the Elder Scrolls, or more self-contained worlds like that of Shamanic Princess or even the Ancient Magus Bride, you would still be able to picture his music as the score to whichever story is preferable to you. Medenera, unlike most atmospheric black metal projects, focuses less on sounding dark or evil or even retro RPG inspired, but instead focuses on bringing out that sensation of wonder, excitement, beauty, and secrets that can be found. Like with Enya's music, Medenera's music transports you away to a time when things were simpler and everything felt not exhausting. Oh my fucking gosh, that was so fucking embarrassing. And it's also, again, it's because his fucking nose. My god. Okay, just give me a sec. Make sure. Stop. Scratched this thing so many times, I swear I'm gonna look like Voldemort with no fucking nostrils. And as for that fucking dog, Jesus Christ. Like, shut the fuck up. Ugh, gosh. Like with Enya's music, Medenera's music transports you away to a time when things were simpler and everything felt exciting. When running around in a park on a summer's day and finding a cool stick that you could use as a sword and pretending you were a knight out to save the princess still felt innocent. And when exploring a beautiful garden with some other kids you met at a venue or big house while the adults partied, felt like you were discovering a new world away from the mundane conversations of your parents and their friends. That is the kind of feeling that both the Shamanic Princess anime and the music of Medenera have in common, and it is why I picked this man out of all the atmospheric black metal artists out there that I listen to on a daily basis. His music just brings out the joy of what it was like to be a kid lost in a fantasy world again. And the way that he writes music while bringing in the elements of black metal is just the cherry on top. Medenera proves that black metal is not a genre that should only be focusing on sounding evil. It's a genre that is meant to create specific moods and atmospheres, and it is even capable of creating something of great beauty. And that is precisely what he does. I am going to quickly leave you with some of the best highlights from his material, sets to clips from the anime, and you can decide for yourself in the comments if you agree with me or not.
Welcome to your new world. I hope you like it here. Your name here is Graham. And I am called Tiara. Say it again. That's right. Welcome to the Guardian world.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm so sorry, Tiara, Lena, Chapalo, and Liam. Brother.
Throne of Yord, I have now become a part of your being. I understand clearly now. My sadness is clear. My loneliness is clear. But still, I feel just the same. I am still clearly myself. The Guardian world, the world of magic users, still exists. But one thing has changed. The Throne of Yord will not need a new friend, because she is strong all on her own.
As far as vocalists are concerned, Enya and Medenera are the defaults here, along with the unnamed female vocalist that Medenera uses on most of his songs. Enya and the unnamed vocalist's cleans would of course contrast nicely with Medenera's harsh vocals that create a nice lo-fi atmospheric flair to the black metal instrumentals. However, if I were to add 2 additional vocalists who would make the odd appearance in some songs, I would have to first and foremost pick Chloe Anya, who is one of the original singers of the group known as Celtic Women, and a singer simply known as Len, who did the vocals for the songs Not For Us and Remember Your Name by the Russian YouTube metal musician DEgITX, who also did a great metal cover of Forces and Hayo by Susumu Hirasawa from the Berserk anime, by the way. It would also be nice to have Enya and Chloe perform vocals in the traditional Gaelic language that is native to their homeland of Ireland, while having Medenera and his unnamed collaborator sing in Italian, while Len adds a bit of Russian into the mix. To me, lyrically, this would be the perfect combination of languages to convey the different settings and cultural elements of the human world and the Guardian world in the Shamanic Princess universe. Of course, English lyrics would have to be present as well, but with the lyrics done in the vocalist's native languages, it can be used as an element to represent the spirits and the other magical beings that inhabit the world of Shamanic Princess and its various settings. It would also, of course, be used to enhance the atmosphere of the music, as often when you hear singing in a language that is not your own, it allows you to turn your brain off and focus on what the singer's voice actually sounds like, instead of concerning yourself as to whether what they are saying sounds corny or not.
I'm not strong. I was never able to fit in. always envied you. I always thought how I'd like to be you.
Чья-то фигура стоит на пути, в серых лохмотьях дорожной пыли. Ветру повеная, тринув вранье, где ты оставил сердце свое. Узы удоли, как льдинка крупы, воины в латах точили клинки. Песня была чиста и нежна, но миром правят лишь кровь и война. С вихрем неистовым голос души, утренний час колыхнет камыши. Сердце встревожит и дева поймет, напрасно скитаться без устали ждет.
Finally, now we get to the album art. The album art would have to contain not only a lot of artistic elements used in 90s anime and fantasy aesthetics, but as far as the style of fantasy is concerned, it would have to reflect the same style of the show itself and not be something as grandiose as a Tolkien, Moorcock, or Lewis fantasy. Although the world of Shamanic Princess is indeed interesting, at the end of the day it is a story centered around the relationship between a small cast of characters and not a typical saving the world from an evil threat style kind of fantasy. Therefore, I would pick Nobuteru Yuki, the artist behind Record of Lodoss War and the Vision of Escaflowne, to do the cover, while the interior booklet art would have to be done by Atsuko Ishida, the original artist responsible for the designs and look of Shamanic Princess, along with the background artist for the anime, who unfortunately isn't listed on my anime list, but whoever he or she is, they would be key into nailing that hand-painted fantasy storybook aesthetic down perfectly. And with that concludes this episode of Let's Construct a Concept Album. Have you seen Shamanic Princess yet, and what are your ideas for a concept album themed around the show? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you all. Also, be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more amazing content like this, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. You can also follow me on my various social media platforms, which will be linked in the description of this video, and once again you can check the secret playlist containing all the songs and artists used in this video so that you can show them some love and support as well. Thank you all for watching, and until the next time guys, take care of yourselves, and as always, have a kick-ass day. Cheers.